Shut up and sit down.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening from wherever you're listening across the world. Get those yellow teeth out of here, Jackie boy. From wherever you're listening across the world, you made me lose my train of thought. Welcome to another episode of Just Ball Things. With me today, as always, is the J-Man, Jack Manuel. How are you, buddy?
I need to brush my teeth, Nicky boy.
Yeah, some mouthwash. You're flossing every day. I mean,
I'm not a flosser, mate, but I did get an electric toothbrush for Christmas.
Hey,
so
there you go.
Very much on board with the electric toothbrush. Big fan of it.
Oh, very nice, very nice. I'm a manual man, so yeah, I enjoy the. I've been brushing my teeth wrong the whole time as well. Apparently, you're supposed to go circular motions. I'm like, just vigorously going back and forth. You need to use soft bristles. I've been using medium bristles like an idiot. Yeah, so this is what our podcast has devolved in.
Shout out to Oral-B, the new sponsor of JBT.
Oral-B are not affiliated with JBT whatsoever. They wouldn't want to put their brand name associated with us. Who would? My name is Nick Buthink, and Jackie boy, I've been back on the exercise train this week. I know the random fact every week is going to be back on the exercise stuff. Oh, man, and I'm running like shit. It's so hard to get back into it. I was like 2 weeks out, and I'm just like, I've lost almost everything that I sort of worked towards. Went swimming yesterday as well, and that was hard. Hadn't been swimming in a while. But yeah, it's nice and hot down here in Melbourne, peak of summer. I think it's going to be 36 degrees tomorrow, which is like 1,000,000 Fahrenheit for those who need the conversion. Yeah, it's going to be a rough few days down in Australia, but yeah, we'll be right. The aircon is running 24/7. Jackie boy, you can contact us at the J-Man JBT or at JBT Nick. Twitter handles are right there on the screen if you're catching us on YouTube. We're also closely affiliated with OTG Basketball. They've got an awesome podcast network and news website where you can keep up to date with everything NBA. They've also got an awesome YouTube network, but of course you know that because that is how you are consuming this podcast. Make sure you give them a follow as well on OTG Basketball, at OTG Basketball on Twitter, and on YouTube at OTG Basketball. If you do follow them on YouTube, you can catch all episodes of JBT as well as all the episodes of the NBA outlet as well. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Facebook.com/JustBallThings. Give us a like and a follow there. We are active. And JBTpodcast@gmail.com if you'd like to send us in some emails. All right, Jackie boy, let's get started here. Sort of shortish episode, but you know, I said we will probably devolve into 2 hours of conversation anyway, as we like to babble. So the Busey Manuel scale, this is, for those of you who are new, this is a JBT created scale that sums up how likely things are to happen in the NBA. We scale it an alternative fact, Twitter fact, Wikipedia fact, or just a straight up fact. The first one here, Jackie boy, some breaches have happened. Well, maybe not some breaches, but some outbreaks have happened across the league with coronavirus. The NBA needs to postpone the season. Jackie boy, take us through what's happened.
All right, this is a fact, Nick, and to take us through what has happened, the Boston Celtics, due to the health and safety protocols of Jason Tatum, Tristan Thompson, Grant Williams, and Robert Williams, all those guys, due to the contact tracing, are out. Mm-hmm. And we've also got the Philadelphia 76ers, or the Philadelphia Seveners, as they played with 7 players today.
I was going to say, yeah.
Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, Vincent Poirier are all out due to the health and safety protocols. Also, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, I believe, are out. I'm not sure if it's in relation to the health and safety protocols. Mike Scott didn't play either. And then also the Dallas Mavericks had Jalen Brunson, Josh Richardson, and Dorian Finney-Smith out for at least a week. Kevin Durant also has been out. Tyler Johnson for the Brooklyn Nets has also been out. Mm-hmm. And for your Washington Wizards, Nick, your star shooting guard, Bradley Beal, is going to be out because apparently talking into someone's ear is what really spreads the COVID, according to the contact tracing experts at the NBA. God freaking damn it, these idiots. And I just spit on my laptop then. So I'm certainly spreading the droplets at that point. But man, apparently droplets can't be spread on a basketball court, but they can be spread during talking. What is going on, Nick?
Well, I guess their contact tracing is taking the better be safe than sorry, but then it's like basketball's probably a pretty unsafe way to do this anyway. So it's like it's weird, and you see this in a lot of codes of sport where they draw these lines, because if it's anything to do with the sport, that's fine, but then it's almost like they're under this sort of farcical notion that as soon as you cross those lines of the court, you're suddenly mega susceptible to the virus, and you need to put on a mask, and you need to, fulfill all the safety protocols. Which I'm not knocking. The safety protocols are there for the health and safety of everyone, but it is a little bit strange how far they'll go, given how blasé they are with not postponing the season, because that's money. And that would be the last thing they need to do. But we're seeing this more and more. We've got the 76ers having literally 7 players, which would mean I think there's a 14-man roster.
It was 15. It was supposed to be. You're supposed to have 8 rotation players healthy for the game, and then Adam Silver's still like, you know what, you guys can still play. Adam Silver, this is going to be a blight on his, pretty spotless record as the head of the NBA.
Yeah.
Because right now we have no information on what the contact tracing is. I mean, we have a little bit. We had Rachel Nichols on the jump earlier this week saying, this is what sort of this means, and this is what this means. But ultimately,
it's
like you mentioned,
extremely convoluted though. Like there's no sort of. It's almost impossible to follow, and I feel like I don't know. I just feel like I'd rather. I don't know if you're in the same opinion, but I'd rather like it just be keep it simple, stupid, but then is a simplistic approach either overly cautious or could be completely the opposite.
It should be overly cautious, Nick. Like
of
at the end of the day, we are in a pandemic. We have an incredibly viral disease that is novel, and there isn't a lot known about it. And the empathy and the well-being of the players physically, mentally, and the rest should be the priority, as well as the staff. I think the people that are behind the scenes have to put on a game, whether it's the coaches, whether it's the media people, whether it's the security people. Those are the people that no one's giving a shit about right now. We hear about Bradley Beal, we hear about Kevin Durant, we hear about these guys because they're the superstars. Yeah. They're the names that we know and love. But behind the scenes, the risk that is being put out to the people that are actually, the behind the scenes, the grinders. When we said about the NBA being, put on hold, and their paychecks were being put on hold as well, other than a few generous owners in that sort of respect. Now they're being asked to put their livelihood at risk for the sake of a paycheck as well. When it's just like, really. And you would think that in a pandemic and in a world of unrest and in where the political fabric and general fabric of society in America is being brought to its knees, that the empathy level and the priority will be player well-being, player health, staff health, coach health, security health, every single person that is at an arena and has to help put on a game, their health and well-being is put in at risk right now, Nick. Yeah. And it makes me incredibly angry, like you mentioned, the blasé and whether it's overly convoluted or overly simplistic or overly narrow. It makes no sense as what is going on right now. If this were, like, it's just like, okay, well, he didn't get it, but Bradley Beal was Jason Tatum was whispering in Bradley Beal's ear over there, so he has to now quarantine. But it's just like, so you can't transfer the disease by guarding someone from 1 foot away and yelling in their ear or something. It makes little to no sense. And the NBA needs to do something before someone is seriously hurt or seriously ill, as it's already happened. We've had Mo Bamba feel the ill effects. We've had so many other athletes around the world feel the ill effects of this, incredibly dangerous virus. It's not just, the 50 plus and the people that have, otherwise conditions, ailments that can be affected by it. It's every single person. And I don't think the blasé nature that you alluded to, Nick, is the right approach, because it's a game. This is a sport. It's a game. This isn't, life and death. The people that are during, like, the frontline health workers, people who are still at, like, supermarkets and are part of key services. Those people are doing God's work right now, and we need them. We need those people. Thankfully, due to different circumstances and lockdowns that are happening down here and people that are wearing their masks, we've been lucky enough. But what Adam Silver and the leadership of the NBA need to take a stand. They were the first sport in the first place to take a stand and shut down, and people followed suit following Rudy Gobert testing positive. Now they need to take a stand and go, you know what? Money isn't what matters right now. We can take a week or two off. The game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Brooklyn Nets should have been postponed. I have no idea why that wasn't the case. Jonas Valanciunas left the game after halftime due to contact tracing issues. He could have passed on the virus to another Brooklyn Nets player. We heard all these things where it's just Wizards players are giving it the Sixers and it's Boston Celtics.
Seth Curry was on the bench when he got told, "Hey, you got a positive test. You got to go," and it's just it reminds me a little bit, and this sort of, I don't know if this is echoed in other American sports, but it seems to be, and obviously we don't live there and we don't live the day to day, but from an international standpoint, this seems to echo the sort of, I guess they're disregarding this virus and their general feel of how this virus is going, how, you can let a player sit on the bench for, X amount of minutes before being dragged off. That you had the guy in the, and I'm not privy to sort of soft baseball, but the guy who had played the game got told he had a positive test during the game and then went on to celebrate with his teams. He obviously would have played for the Dodgers, and there was just you only, this is an important moment. It's just you have literally contracted a virus of which there is no sort of, there's no slowing down. I mean, we've got this pandemic raging. It just seems to highlight the overarching, feel of how the virus is being treated in America. From an international, this is what we see as internationals. And it's not good. It's not a good look. You see a lot of countries who have absolutely, kicked the crap out of this virus. And, America is not like any other country, I know. But there are lessons to be learned. And it just doesn't seem that they're just not taking it seriously. And that's what it comes across as, which is bad from, the NBA, who did the right thing and, led the American sports in, canceling their games and took it very seriously. Obviously, they didn't have a plan in place. No other sport did. So the safest route was to cancel. And now I'd say they're trying to. That is going to be the worst case. That's going to be the last case scenario, because they have this grand plan that they obviously have taken time to come up with. Is it naive of me to have faith that the NBA knows what they're doing? Possibly, but I agree. I do think that the season should be postponed. At least it doesn't have to be for months like it was obviously in the season. No. It could literally just be 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yep. Granted, that may be a lot of money lost. That would mean that 72 games may turn into 62 games. If they still want to maintain the sort of scheduling. And it does create a whole bunch of logistical nightmares like that. Or you could push the season forward, but, the NBA has so much sway in terms of, how much power they have in that country in terms of what, I guess the reach that they have, that they are able to do these things. It's not like, I don't know. It's not like they've got a lot of constraints around them. They have got so much power and so much will that if they wanted to do this, they can get it done. And so, yeah, I'm sort of sitting on the fence a little bit. I do think the season should be postponed, but I understand why it's not. Obviously, they've got this plan that they want to enact, but the safest route right now, given, it's not like one or two people. We've got a team that literally had more than half of its roster cut down. We're seeing tests to the point where you can get on the court without getting your test results back, which is evident in the Seth Curry incident. which baffles me. I would have thought that they'd have to get their results back before they get on the court. But
apparently, how it goes, Nick, is that they get the rapid test before the game, and then they get the PCR test, which apparently
But surely that's only it's during the course of a game. It's obviously within an hour. Can't they just get it done an hour before the game? Like, there must be some sort of time frame where they can get one back in 10 minutes, which is fine, which has a X amount of accuracy. And this could be a false positive for Seth Curry. That's also possible. And all of this could be blown out, and nothing could nothing could happen from these quarantines. I guess they are taking the prudent sort of safe approach. But if it does turn out that there are cases in players that have been transmitted from close interactions on the bench or on the court, then they need to seriously look at the sort of protocol pre-game on how they're determining that these players are fit and well and can take the court, because as soon as you deem them fit and well, they can theoretically do anything. And on the court, you're obviously bumping up against each other. There's a lot of sweat. There's a lot of fluids happening
Imagine you, Nick.
I know.
You give every single person COVID.
I mean, I see most NBA players just dripping. Russell Westbrook is a fiend for it. And so, like, these guys are professional athletes. They sweat a lot, They've got their, they're drinking on the sides. They're close in huddles, talking, and this is not a hygienic environment. And so everything needs to happen pre-game to make sure that they are fit and ready to play. It worked so well in the bubble because there were so much control measures in place. And it just seems that they haven't strengthened those control measures, despite the fact that they've increased the probability of someone coming into these games with the virus. Whereas the bubble, you didn't have that sort of risk. It just seems that they haven't sort of learnt. They haven't learnt from other codes of sport, from other instances, and they haven't taken the appropriate response to, I guess, ensure the safety of the league. Yeah, so that was a bit of a tangent, but yes, I do think the NBA needs to postpone the season. This is a fact. The livelihood of if they postpone, because it doesn't have to be long. Doesn't have to be long. Just shore up what you have. Find out exactly who has it. 2-3 weeks is more than enough for any incubation to sit in. Find out the players who have it. Find out, contact trace, and just essentially just get a list together of everyone that has it or does not have it, and then you can restart the league like nothing had happened. You just have to make sure that your pre-game ritual on those viruses are sort of in check.
Yeah, I wonder what the breaking point is going to be at this point in time, because at this point it's only going to get worse before it gets better, because the virus ain't stopping. And
well, I was going to say it might be a star, but Joel Embiid is now quarantining 2 weeks, and I think that's more precautionary. Bradley Beal, yeah. It's so it's obviously not going to be if a star sort of contracts it or has to quarantine.
Kevin Durant has been missing a week as well, and this is why there's the playing tournament, all that sort of BS. But it's a weird season, and I said that on the Brooklyn Buzz season preview that this is going to be the biggest determining factor. And Luka Doncic said it himself in preseason sort of interviews. He's like, what's going to be the key determining factor? Who do you think is going to be the best team this year? He's like the one that doesn't get affected.
Yeah, that's right. Who has the most healthy players? Like Kyrie Irving obviously is not missing due to COVID reasons. Unrelated, I've heard. I don't know if any more news has happened from that, Jackie boy, in terms of like.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in Brooklyn bits in a little bit.
Oh, yes. But how he comes back to the team and the protocols around him, and reintegrating with the players, and obviously where he's been. But we'll get to that. But that does have a coronavirus impact as well. There's just it's so hard, and we have so much faith in the NBA given how successful the bubble was. But in such a controlled environment, again, these measures can be a little bit lax because most of the work is done, because everyone is in the same area, they're doing the same things, And now when you increase that area from a theme park to a country, shit gets harder. It's harder to control these things, so you need to have more measures in place, and it just doesn't seem that they have done that step.
They can't control it. It's as simple as that. And look, the NBA was shut down after one case from one of its players, and now we see
that was an unknown. There was an unknown quantity.
I agree, Nick. I agree. I'm being a bit facetious for the sake of it, but like the virus is worse now than it has ever been in America and around the world in a lot of locations. And obviously there are a lot of predetermined factors for that, but it seems to me that there is a lack of control and a lack of communication from the NBA about what is happening, what's going on behind the scenes, and what we need to know, and it's just it leaves everyone in the dark, and it allows us to fill in the gaps in a certain sort of way. So I mean, we could chat about this for an entire podcast, but look, it's scary. It makes me angry because for me, the NBA is known as being like the player empowerment, the player friendly league, but right now it seems to me that they're treating not just their players but everyone else beyond that as sort of just like workers rather than human beings. And at the end of the day, they're human beings, Nick. They have hells. They have their livelihood to think about more than just a paycheck and a game of basketball.
That's right.
So
well, a new to leadership in the White House may push for a sort of increase in treating this virus with the respect it deserves, I guess, because it certainly hasn't been done justice in the current administration. But the light is at the end of the tunnel, Jackie boy. I'm sure a lot of Americans feel the same way. All right, let's get on to some fun basketball news, Jackie boy. Instead of this depressing crap you keep bringing up. Important stuff. LaMelo Ball is balling. I think today or yesterday racked up that triple-double, youngest ever.
Yesterday he had a double-double against his brother and was, I think, 1 assist or 1 board away. So just took him 1 day later.
The youngest triple-double in NBA history at 19.
Who was younger than him before that? It was his brother. Lonzo was apparently he for the youngest player with a triple-double. I really
would have thought LeBron would have had one.
So this is and Shams Sarani have tweeted it out. November 11, 2017, Lonzo Ball, as a Lakers rookie, breaks LeBron James' record for being the youngest player in NBA history for a triple-double. January 9, 2021, LaMelo Ball becomes the youngest player in NBA history with a triple-double, breaking Markelle Fultz's previous mark. So it's pretty interesting. But Nick, LaMelo Ball is already better than his older brother.
This is nice. I mean, he was already he was an NBA prospect, I guess, if you want to, he was already an NBA level passer, and we're seeing some highlights here of the things that he can do. He's an important part, even though coming out off the bench, of Charlotte's, where they are, I guess. I mean, which isn't too impressive, but he's the most exciting part about that Charlotte team. Obviously, Devontae Graham. We had a lot of
start him, Nick. Start him.
It is strange that he is not starting on this team. And I did see OTG come out with
that was me. That was me.
That was you.
Down the account today.
There you go. Very nice. With the campaign to start LaMelo Ball. He just looks confident, and I guess that is part and parcel with the Ball name. I mean, I don't think anyone has. There is times where Lonzo has not looked confident. That's to be fair. He's just fluid. Like the way he plays, he's just gorgeous passing. He's obviously got the vision of a veteran, which is what Lonzo was touted as having. He's got this incredible vision and incredible passing, which he does. Lonzo does, but LaMelo's is better. I mean, there's no doubt about it. To be fair, I have not watched a lot of Charlotte. I've not caught a lot of their games, given that they are the Charlotte Hornets. But from what I've seen of him, which has been highlights, and everyone can look good in highlights, he has looked promising. He's obviously putting stats up on the board and filling in gaps where Charlotte really need right now.
Yeah, and look, I think that there's a big differentiator between LaMelo and Lonzo. Lonzo was touted as being this Jason Kidd sort of type, but just is a reluctant scorer. LaMelo is anything but reluctant. He wants to fill it up, whether it's a highlight with a behind-the-back pass or it's a 30-foot dagger from deep. And he's finally found his stroke as well. He's looking good from deep. it took some time from him, and I was questioning my own and your own Rookie of the Year pick on, I don't know if LaMelo's going to be
slow start from LaMelo really sort of put everyone on edge a little bit.
But it's taken him, 10 games, 10 games to just find his footing. He is, like you mentioned, he's playing like a vet, a guy who has experienced a lot of time in the league. Send Devontae Graham to the goddamn bench. I think he'd be better on the bench as well as a sixth man of the year sort of candidate. But for me, LaMelo has star potential, and he's showing us glimpses of that already. He does everything that Lonzo does except for the defense. Lonzo is a really, really good defender, promising defender, but LaMelo can pass, LaMelo can shoot, and he is a great rebounder as well. He's got great size about him. So I think that LaMelo can improve defensively. He's not great there. No NBA rookie really is. No. Tyrese Halliburton and maybe Josh Green are exceptions to that rule. But in saying that, LaMelo Ball to me we haven't really seen these star-like games, and Lonzo's just always going to be, I think, there's going to be a glorified role player in certain sort of respects. That doesn't mean he can't be like a consistent starter for a very good team going forward. But LaMelo Ball can be a second or third star. I think he has that much upside. He's not going to be Stephen Curry or whatever and be that transcendent, but I think he can be Trae Young-esque and maybe better in certain respects because he has the size which Trae Young doesn't have.
Trae Young-esque is very... Trae Young was an all-star last year in his second year. Second year.
Yeah, and look, no, third year. Oh, no, second year. You're right. You're right. Yeah. But look, your boy Bradley Beal should have been in there above him. We all know that. I might get you angry. Stop. That's because you were playing part car defense, as he likes to call it. But in saying that, because he's also got size about him that Trae Young doesn't have. I think size does matter. And you can put that as a little bit of a tagline for whatever you want, ladies out there and gentlemen out there. For size certainly does matter. Where it does in the NBA, especially on the defensive end of the floor. Trae Young is never going to be a good defender. He's never going to be a Chris Paul, a short guy who can actually play capable defense. He's going to be Kemba Walker, Isaiah Thomas, and there's going to be a traffic cone out there. Whereas LaMelo, despite being a rookie, because he rebounds the ball so well, there's a defensive skill already that he does kind of well. I think he's going to get better there. And, he hit the shot on his brother Lonzo. We've sort of seen that in the highlights. He's got star upside, Nick, and it's only taken him 8, 9, 10 games to show it. Whereas Lonzo has shown us a better game than we've seen from LaMelo already? I can't honestly imagine.
No, and this is why this is true for me, and I sort of alluded it before. There's a fact. This sort of reigns like... Sorry. This sort of has a little bit of... when I always say, like, it really... You have to really luck out where you get drafted to really maximize your potential. And I always bring forward, it's just like, Jordan got drafted in the perfect situation. It's not like he made the perfect situation that, like, I'm not saying that Jordan wasn't adaptable and moved around to things and, all that. But, if Lonzo had not been drafted by the Lakers, who were notoriously bad at not only, maybe not drafting, but realizing the potential of their young stars. You saw D'Angelo Russell take leaps and bounds moving away, and Lonzo Ball, not leaps and bounds, but became a better player at the Pelicans. So has LaMelo Ball found his perfect situation, and that has really, given him the tools to succeed? And you're never going to know. You're never going to know because you never get that time back. You're never going to get Lonzo redrafted somewhere else to really find out. But at the minute, for sure, it seems that LaMelo's progression as a player has certainly started a lot stronger than Lonzo, to the point where I do think he is better. And all of the things that were coming out about in high school and the NBL has certainly come to fruition in the NBA. He can certainly pass it at NBA level. He can certainly score at times at an NBA level. The three has not sort of diminished this in the same way that Lonzo did. Obviously, was able to shoot the three and then comes into the NBA sense and can't shoot a three at all. So it's a lot more positives out of LaMelo's game compared to Lonzo. So that's why this is a fact for me. Exciting times for Charlotte. You've obviously got like Gordon Hayward as well, has been balling as well. So
Scary Terry.
It's good. We've talked about the Hornets, which has been insane. Like, because with all the airtime we give the Wizards, there's no other time to give to any other subpar team in the East. And, we've talked about Rozier's dunk on Durant. We've talked about Hayward and LaMelo. This is good signs just to get your team on the map.
It's also a good sign, Nick, for all the little brothers out there, for you, mate. This is why you're going for LaMelo as well, because it's all about those little brothers. Right, Luna? It's all about those little brothers out there, and I'm sure Chaz is probably fully on the bandwagon with LaMelo Ball as being the better ball brother. But we'll get to another superstar point guard, Nick, and get me that Brooklyn Bits music, big fella.
In classic, this would not be a JBT podcast if there wasn't some sort of technical difficulties, Jackie boy. So, I have no idea where we stopped. We'll figure it out. Hopefully we got all the LaMelo Ball stuff. But let's get on to some Brooklyn bits. And Kyrie Irving, we alluded to this before. Kyrie Irving has been missing from the team, due to personal reasons. So Kyrie Irving's absence from Brooklyn is inexcusable, Jackie boy.
It's unexcusable, Nick. It's inexcusable.
It's inexcusable.
It's inexcusable. Now, this is an absolute alternative fact, Nick. The reason that people are giving him criticism and continuing to slander him are because he decides to take some time away from his sport and his profession because the world around him is a bit too much and he's deciding to prioritize his own mental health. I feel like that is a role model if I've ever heard of one.
Is that confirmed, though, Jackie boy? Like, I hear personal reasons and I think family.
No, okay, so yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's fair to ask that question, Nick. And for those that aren't as switched on with Nets news, we saw some pretty shitty reporting from people like Scoop B. Robinson, and then some much better reporting for the likes of Joe Vine at The Athletic and Anthony Puccio with the association. And Puccio reported that. He reported that saying that basically what was happening in the current climate of America in terms of the political landscape, in terms of the lack of charges brought forward for Jacob Blake's shooter, the officer who shot him 7 times in the back and was no charges laid, and Jacob Blake is now paralyzed from the waist down. Also the Breonna Taylor stuff and just the growing unrest is having an effect on him, and he's decided to take some time off. That is what was reported from Anthony Puccio, and it's basically confirmed. Puccio's quite switched on. He's a great reporter. So I would see that as someone as leading the way and going, you know what? My well-being matters more right now than a basketball game. We were ranting and rambling on before about the fact that a goddamn pandemic is still raging. And there's also currently political unrest to the highest degree that we haven't seen since the inception of the political landscape in America, since 1776 or whatever. If you choose to take some time away, that is someone setting a standard and going, you know what? I matter more than a game of basketball. I'm more than a basketballer. And Kyrie Irving has always said that. The reasons why people would go attacking him is just like, well, did he text Steve Nash or not? Why did he only text the teammates? And then the day after, Steve Nash comes out and said, yes, I've communicated with Kyrie. It's a private matter. No one else needs to know about it. And I put this out on Twitter as well. I'm like, personal reasons. If they are personal reasons, you have no right to know about it. If Nick and I decide to take a week off of JBT, we don't have to tell our listeners that, we're going through some stuff, we're going family stuff. There's some external factors affecting our mental and health and our ability to produce a good product. And Kyrie Irving has decided to do that, and I think that Kyle Lowry's out for personal reasons as well. Maybe it's for similar reasons. We've heard that a couple of times, and I think people should be lauded for that, not discredited and criticized. And I was going back and forth with the person on the Nets Nation Facebook page, and he's like, why is Kyrie taking time off for maternity leave? And I'm like, all right, great job, dickhead, for downplaying maternity leave while also downplaying a person trying to prioritize their mental well-being. Thankfully, I had a lot of people in support of that because it's just an absolutely idiotic comment. But that's come from a lot of people. Because in the Memphis Grizzlies game as well, I put out a tweet, and I knew it would happen, and I probably shouldn't have done it. But I'm like, all right, who's ready to blame Kyrie Irving for the Nets' performance right now? And a lot of people were. Surprise, surprise. There are dickheads in the world right now that just aren't showing the level of empathy that you would think would be shown more so when there is a pandemic and social and political unrest at an incredibly heightened level. I don't understand it, Nick. I get Kyrie Irving deserves to be criticized at times, and you and I, in seasons past, have criticized him for that. But right now, to provide a level of criticism, to provide any criticism to him, it's unjustified in so many different ways. It makes me really angry because as a person who does want to prioritize their mental health and think it is good and great to see people doing that, why are we attacking and vilifying a person that does that? It just makes little to no sense to me.
It's the sort of toxic nature of sports in general, because you see, it's been a problem for a long time in the AFL. I don't just bring basketball takes in this podcast. I like to bring it across sports because, all sports is very, very similar in a lot of ways. I like to bring the sort of example of Tom Boyd to the fray. There was a very, very good, a highly controversial player for the Western Bulldogs who played, very, very much struggled with mental health during his time at playing footy. Was on a massive contract, so people loved paying out on him. He was copying a lot of crap, and he ended up retiring because he just couldn't deal with it anymore. And he was vilified a little bit for saying he's weak and whatever. But most smart people and normal people were like, "That's fine, good on you." He's obviously a massive advocate for mental health. But then on the flip side, it tends to get everyone's plaudits if something serious were to happen, in the example of Magic Door. And I know these names aren't going to mean anything to a lot of people. But again, another player, not as talked about as Tom Boyd, but he was going through some mental health struggles and ended up taking action and seriously hurt himself. And his road to recovery and getting back onto the football field was praised with, everyone was around him and good on him. Everyone should be around him. He'd struggled for so long, and then to see him come out the other side, it's very, very gratifying. But then that level of mental health gets plaudits. But then if you actually take the right steps to separate yourself, to get yourself into a mentally healthy spot, to take time off, like what Kyrie Irving's doing, you get vilified for it. Which is extremely wrong. Like, does something have to happen? Does someone have to have a mental breakdown for you to actually realize that there is this mental stress on people? Whereas I think it's incredibly responsible and incredibly smart to realize it early and take appropriate steps, which is seemingly what he's doing. Obviously, like, I'm not in the know, but personal reasons means personal reasons. So I just, it's sort of silly, and you see it across multiple sports where if you take responsibility and say, yes, I am struggling with mental health, you can get castrated for it. Whereas if something were to happen and then you come back to the road to recovery, the sort of comeback story is applauded. Whereas it should never have gotten to that point anyway. And it's sad that it's sad that something needs to happen for something to mean something to people.
Yeah, these people aren't seen as human, like we sort of alluded to earlier. Like, they're seen as NBA players, football players, soccer players. They're
infallible. And that's the problem. Like, we have some sort of expectation that these people are not people. They're better than people. But at the end of the day, they are people.
Yeah, and yeah, we need to show a level of empathy, especially in today's day and age, more than any other. Humanity is what matters right now, not necessarily a game of basketball, a game of football, a sport. Like, I get that, we need that escapism every now and then, but let's just chill a little bit. And I guess it's Kyrie Irving. He's the easiest target in the world, and people are going to find reasons to attack him. And this is a very easy reason to attack him, and it makes me a little bit, a very, very uneasy and queasy, even sort of just having to talk about it, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to be speaking about this sort of stuff. It should be just like, Kyrie Irving's dealing with his stuff. Let's talk about.
It should just be a news report. Kyrie Irving is missing from these games because of personal reasons. How has it affected the game? How has it affected the Nets? Not he shouldn't be doing it. Like,
whatever. We should be talking about that on this
like
podcast.
You beat the Sixers. You beat the Sixers without Kyrie Irving. Maybe that should be the news.
Yeah.
You lost to Memphis without him. Maybe that should be the news. Like, how important is Kyrie Irving to your team? But no, it's Kyrie Irving should never have left.
Yeah,
it's like, what the fuck is that?
It's a real joke, Nick. But we'll get back to some b-ball stuff. We like to tackle the deeper issues on JBT every now and then. You know, we've got some depth to us, even though we are some silly human beings at times. We can provide a little. Peel the onion a little bit. You might have a little bit of a tear with us, a little bit of a cry with us, but we get deep. That's what we like on this pod. Nick, let's end with a little bit of another take with another superstar point guard. Stephen Curry is leading the MVP race. Last week, I think, on the JBT outlet crossover, I was bringing up the topic that Stephen Curry is overrated, and now he's in the MVP race, Nick. Is he leading it, though?
That one game, Jackie boy, that one game will live in everyone's hearts forever.
He had like a 39-point performance.
I know, but it's not a 60. It's not a 62. Jackie boy, 62. It's a lot of points. And I was actually like listening to No Dunks, and they were saying stuff like, is 62 like it doesn't feel as impressive anymore? And I rebut to that because, I mean, it may not feel as impressive, but I think it's got to do with percentage of total points. So in that 62-point game, I think Golden State scored 145, which is just shy of 50% of all the points scored. So that's like saying someone in 90s basketball, when they're scoring 90,
scored 40.
And they scored 40, which would be massive. But now a 40-point game in an 140-point game is nothing. It's all about the percentage of points, because obviously if more people are getting points, then there's more to go around. More people are going to, stuff their stats. A 20-point average does not mean what it used to mean. It's still hard to get. It is still hard to get. But it doesn't mean what it used to mean when you're putting up 90 points a game and you're 20 of them. That's so much more impactful, but I digress. 62 points is still hella impressive. And I guess it's who do you think is in that mix? Is Jokic will be in that mix. Embiid might be in that mix. Obviously Curry is in that mix. Giannis, I mean, I feel like he's had a quiet year. The Sixers are obviously flying right now, and Embiid is a massive reason for that. Simmons as well, but not MVP Simmons.
Julius Randle. I'm
putting Julius Randle. Oh my God, the Knicks were like 6th in the East like 2 weeks ago or something like that. They were over 500 for the first time in what feels like a century. So good on the Knicks. Austin Rivers is a big deal with that one as well. My boy Bradley Beal leading the NBA in points. The record's not there, but come on. He's taking the most field goals. He's making the most field goals. He's missing the most field goals. He's leading the league in so many. Anyway, I personally think, despite the fact that, and I'm not sure about the Nuggets. I think they've won the last 2, so their standing
still 11th,
might be... Are they still 11th? Yeah, okay. I was going to say their standing may have increased, but I know they were idling around that 500 mark, and that was even a struggle. They were below 500 for a lot of the season.
Yeah, they're 4-5 right now.
There you go. If it wasn't for the record, I'd be having Jokic as my number 1, because he's just been hella impressive. He scores at will. The guy scores at will, which is just... Look at him, Jack. This man scores at will.
He's our thick lord, Nick. We praise him.
Love him. He's leading the league in total assists right now. My boy Westbrook in assists per game, but let's not talk about that. Obviously averaging a triple-double on the season. PER is at close to 30 right now, which is insane. The guy's just hyper efficient. 44% from the 3, 80-ish% from the free throw line, 57% from the field. The guy is just an absolute machine. Some of the scores some of the shots he's been taking as well. Beautiful rainbow shots. We definitely know that's in Jokic's arsenal. But if it wasn't for the record, he would be topping for me. And you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, he's topping. It's early in the season. That will even out. Jokic is leading the way for MVP for me.
Look, I had Steph as my preseason pick, so I ain't straying from that one at all. So I'm going to stick with Stephen Curry.
I don't even remember who my MVP pick was. It might have been LeBron.
Was it Luka or LeBron?
Oh, don't feel like it would have been Luka. Anyway, that's for the end of season. That's for next season's preview when we look back at those results or the end of the year. We might do like a half year break to see how everything's doing. Yeah, we have done that before.
But yeah, I had Steph in the preseason, and I think right now, everyone was questioning, his legacy. But right now, he's just gone, you know what, bang, 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 I'm Stephen Curry. I'm one of the best players to ever play this game, let alone one of the best shooters ever. Yeah. We know he's the best shooter ever. Let's just go beyond that. He is an incredibly skilled player.
Their comeback win, their comeback, he's a major contributor in that comeback win over the Clippers.
Huge.
It's huge. He was a plus 13 on the night. The Clippers are just, I don't know where the hell they're at.
I think this is going to be an inconsistent season, to be honest, Nick. And
I can't get a read on the Clippers. Like, they're really good, and then they're really bad, and Kawhi looks like Hollow Man. Have you seen Hollow Man? I'm going to bring up an image of Hollow Man. He looks like Hollow Man.
It's an odd mask. He's a weird-looking dude. He's an odd-looking man, and Serge Ibaka apparently is going to get traded for doing that. But yeah, in saying that, I think Stephen Curry. I said that if they win enough games, they could be there. He could do essentially what Russell Westbrook did in his triple-double season, where he takes his team to a decent enough seed, lose a round in the playoffs, but still be the MVP. I think Stephen Curry has that gravity, and people are looking for a new narrative. The Thick Lord, I think we praise him. We bow down to his large and chunky feet. He's absolutely dominating, like you mentioned right now, Nick.
Warriors are 8th as well. They're 5-4. Which is not, it's not bad. The only reason I say Embiid is because the Sixers do have the best record.
Hey, if Jared Allen's out playing him, Nick, he ain't winning an MVP at all. Jared Allen deserves
that was a
MVP.
Disengaged Embiid. It wasn't the same Embiid.
MVP's got to be engaged night after night.
Jared Allen for MVP. He's bodied Embiid. He's bodied Gobert. And he still comes off the bench, or he's on the bench a lot of the time.
He's not on the bench anymore, mate. Steve Nash
has seen the light.
I did no. Well, he saw the light for a certain point, and then in the Memphis Grizzlies game, again, listen to the buzz if you want to hear me rant about Steve Nash and some of his inconsistencies as a coach right now. But yeah, there's certainly a race, and it's early days. And by the end of it, I think Jokic will be there because I expect the Nuggets to become better.
Nuggets will be there. I mean, they finished second in the West last year, I think. And yeah, he's just been hyper impressive, and he's got that start early. So this will sort of carry on, even if he has maybe a week of, average-ish numbers. People will still hold him in high regard. And then if he goes for another run, another 40-point triple-double, which is definitely in his arsenal, some game winners. By the end of the season, we're going to be looking at the standings and be like, you know what? Jokic may have done enough. The Suns right now are first in the West. We'll see how long that lasts, but that's super impressive. Devin Booker is balling.
He hasn't been that good. He's been okay.
He had a good game today, or a good. I saw Suns. Yeah. I saw Suns Twitter going off, and I was just like, "Oh, Devin Booker doing some things." I obviously haven't deep dived into the Suns enough, but I might have to now. 7-3,
Mikal
quite
Bridges,
impressive.
bro.
Yeah,
that dude's gonna win
MVP.
He's insane.
Yeah.
He's truly insane. He had an amazing game today against the Pacers. But there's so many names, obviously, 10 games in. Last year we were doing this about Andrew Wiggins and Karl-Anthony Towns.
That's right. So Andrew Wiggins has been pretty good for the pretty good.
Oh, don't bring him in the MVP conversation.
No, I was just to say pretty good. Talking about the Warriors, he's been pretty good. Not as good as his sort of month-long tear last year, but he has been pretty good. Warriors not bad. Even without Clay, there was a bit of a shaky start, and I really thought that was like, okay, here we go. But they've sort of turned it around. Steph obviously absolutely balling. I think he needed to fall into that I'm the man again. And we're seeing good old classic Steph, and it's great. But for me, it's Jokic. Jokic leading that MVP race.
Fair enough. We'll revisit this probably soon again. We'll have to do it with the Joker. But yeah. Only a couple of topics this week, and we somehow still get an hour out of it.
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no idea what's happened, because I've got like one video that's probably 20 minutes long and another video that's 40 minutes long. I'm gonna have to do some finagling, but we'll get it out to you, beautiful people. And obviously, if you're seeing this, it is out to you, beautiful people. All right, that's it. That's about does it for another week. So we'd just like to say thank you for tuning in to Just Ball Things. As always, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Google Podcasts, Player FM, Spreaker, Spotify. wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. We should be there. If we're not, let us know. Do us a solid, leave us a rating and review if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us out a bunch. If you are catching, that's right, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. If you are catching us on the YouTubes, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well so you know when fresh content comes out by OTG, which includes all JBT episodes. So remember, it's you guys that make the show great, so we appreciate any and every post heading our way. So until next week.
Keep ballin', superstars.